Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to another video here. So I wanted to talk about something that we've talked about quite a bit, but I came across this article and I was reading some of the comments here by Scott Gimple as well as Andrew Lincoln on, The Ones Who Live Season 2 and whatnot. And I wanted to give some thoughts on this and sort of talk about some stuff here because I also did a video the other day regarding Rick Grimes' death, or at least how Andrew Lincoln would like to see Rick Grimes' death happen, or I guess how his story would end. So yeah, I do want to talk about that. So before we go any further, make sure to be a subscriber if you do want to get all of my Walking Dead content like this. Comic-Con is just this week now. It's only 6 days away until we get that actual trailer. There's likely going to be a bunch of announcements on Monday as well, so that's 2 days away from now. I'm really excited for this week. It's been very quiet for some time now. It's been really hard to talk about anything Walking Dead related because there really hasn't been a lot of news. I want to get to my episode breakdowns for episode 13, 14, and then 15 and 16, and I will get to that. But today we're filming a bunch of stuff, and yesterday I worked on that video for The Ones Who Lives premiere, which, if you haven't seen it yet, I went back and revisited The Ones Who Lives premiere. Really phenomenal episode. Like, honestly, a really incredible episode that felt like an actual movie. Like, it felt like the Rick Grimes movie that we just never got. So yeah, I break down that episode and give some thoughts on that, and really, I talk about that idea that this was literally the movie that we never got. And also, if you haven't joined the channel yet, then I definitely recommend doing so. I will be posting a video actually at some point later. It's going to be a different video from the videos that I've been posting in terms of like vlogs and all of that. So yeah, stay tuned for that. And also, if you do consider joining the channel, then thank you so much for all the support. And so I saw this article here from Forbes, and they're wondering whether or not, The Ones Who Live is going to get a season 2. And they have some quotes here from Scott Gimple and Andrew Lincoln. Scott Gimple saying, "It's definitely going to go somewhere, but it might just be in my brain. It might just be my fan fiction." Andrew Lincoln says, "Never say never. There are other very important characters in the universe that are still wandering around and alive that I think it might be quite exciting to have them breathe the same air and see how long they survive together. But it's a difficult one. It would have to be like this, a really exciting story. If that were to come out of Gimple's or Denai's brain, and it was irresistible, then I think that there's infinite chance that it might happen again, but I don't know when." And I will point out what's very interesting about that very last comment is that there was actually an interview with Denai Guerrero that happened very recently. This was like 2 weeks ago now, in which she was talking about talking with Gimple, that they were talking about musicals or something like that. Now, obviously, I think they were just joking around. Like, Denai Guerrero does say that they were just joking around. But what's interesting about that is that they were actually talking. And who knows when this interview was done. I don't think the interview was done around February or March. Like, I don't think that. I think it was actually done probably like early June or like late May. Like late May, early June, most likely in June, around the time that they were promoting The Ones Who Live in the UK, because it just released in the UK. So I think it was done around then, and then they just released that article, or I guess interview with, I guess, whatever magazine just came out like a couple of weeks ago. It was at some point this month anyways, early July. So to me, I look at that and I'm like, well, if Denai Guerrero and Scott Gimple are talking right now, they're probably talking about the story here, which to me tells me that, because if you look at The Ones Who Live, that story was created, I would say, mostly by Scott Gimple. Like, I feel like Denai Guerrero and Andrew Lincoln were involved for sure with a lot of the story and with where they wanted to go. We did hear a lot about that, but I do feel like that was more of Gimple's story, because Gimple introduced a lot of that, and I think he ran that mostly, right? Because he was the showrunner. And I think that just makes a lot of sense. But I do think if there's a second series here, or a season 2, or whatever they're going to call it, I think that Denai Guerrero is going to be a lot more involved. I don't think Andrew Lincoln will be. I think he'll probably be involved as much as he was with The Ones Who Live. But I think Denai Guerrero is going to be way more involved here. And the fact that they were talking like, a month ago, I'm assuming a month or two ago or whatever, and they're probably still talking, I'm assuming, I wonder if they are talking about what the story is going to be next here. Because the interesting thing about Denai Guerrero and a lot of her comments regarding the future, like a season 2 and all of that, is that she doesn't want to talk about it. She's very quiet about it. And that right there, I think, is the most telling, because Andrew Lincoln is saying, never say never, if I'm really open to it, this and that, and if the story's right, we'll do it, but it has to be just like this sort of thing, and Gimple is saying that. But Denai Guerrero's response is very interesting, because she's just like, she has to be quiet. Like, she doesn't want to say this or that, and I find that almost the most revealing out of all the comments, because if this was just it, then you would just say, no, this was it. This is sort of a bookend to this. Like, we want to end this story, right? Like, you would say that. So the fact that she's not saying that at all, I think tells me that they are working on something. And if we learned anything from all the promotion of The Ones Who Live, it was that they always revealed things with a surprise. It wasn't like a build-up. And mean, I do prefer the build up because it's a lot of hype, right? Like if you say there's going to be an announcement on this day of something, then there's a lot of excitement, right? Like if they said, oh, there's going to be a season 2 announcement or a special Walking Dead announcement anyways at Comic-Con, it's going to build up so much excitement, right? And I prefer that route in terms of marketing, but for the ones who live, they really kept it as a surprise. Like we just literally on a random day, they would just like drop a bunch of information, right? So I feel like in terms of finding out anything about the ones who live season 2, it's going to be something very similar to that. It's just going to be literally a surprise that we're not expecting. If you look at Comic-Con in 2022, when they first announced the ones who live, like we were all sort of expecting something. We didn't know if they were going to be there, but we were expecting that like maybe there could be some sort of announcement or something, because obviously Rick movie news at that point was very, very quiet. And then we found out the ones who live is going to be a thing, and it's going to be a TV series instead, right? So I'm expecting news like that. Like this year at Comic-Con, we could get something like that. I mean, and I guess that's a question for you guys. Do you think that we're going to get that sort of news here at this year's Comic-Con? Do you think we're going to get any sort of update on the ones who live season 2? Personally, for me, I feel like there's actually a good chance that we could. I mean, Gimple is going to respond to it. Like he's going to talk about, you know, I guess that idea, because he's going to be asked that question. Like there's no way he's going to go through all of Comic-Con and not be asked about Rick and Michonne. Like it's going to come up. I'm sure he's very aware of it, and I'm sure he's working out, or probably it has worked out, exactly what he's going to say to that, right? And it's going to be interesting to see how he responds to that. I feel like a good response would be like, yeah, you know, we're talking and, you know, we're working on this and that. Like something like that would be really interesting, because that's honestly what I'm kind of expecting anyways. It's just something like that. Like, I don't think they're going to come out at Comic-Con and announce the ones who live season 2 is coming out kind of thing. I think that would be really amazing, but I just don't think they're that far in the process. Though I will say, well, actually, you know what? I won't say that, because the ones who live, the thing about that, like announcing that and committing to that, they already knew some of the story going into it. They knew what they had to tell and sort of the end game and how to like put everything together. With the ones who live season 2, it would be hard to announce a season 2 if you don't know what the story is going to be. Because Andrew Lincoln, obviously he wants the story to be really good before he signs on to anything. So with the ones who live season 2, it is very different than the ones who live. Because the ones who live, we already knew where the story was going to go. Rick is out there. You know, he's stuck at the CRM, this and that. Michonne's trying to find him. There's that whole thing already set there, right? With season 2, I mean, you have Rick and his family all together again. And, you know, they can go out there and help the CRM, you know, deliver supplies to people and all that. But there's still more of a story that you have to work out there. I think Morgan showing up again would be really incredible. Like, there's a lot of stuff that you would have to set up there to make the story really great. And I think that there is a way to do it. But again, you have to work out that story first before you announce a season 2. So if they were to ever announce a season 2 at Comic-Con, then we know for sure at that point that they have worked out a story. So in terms of an update in any way, I'm expecting Gimple to just be like, well, we're talking this and that, you know, we have some ideas and whatever. Like it's probably going to be a very like non-update, though. I mean, I guess the last update he gave is that he hopes things go somewhere. So if he does say anything like we're talking this and that, then that's actually a way better sign than what we originally had, right? So we'll have to wait and see, but I really am looking forward to any sort of announcement of any kind. I feel like the more we talk about it and the more that I talk about the ones who live just sort of in general, that it makes way more sense for the ones who live to get a season 2, right? Like the ones who live season 2 almost makes way more sense in my opinion, because the ones who live isn't technically about the CRM. It's about Rick and his family and just like the way they live and their beliefs and this and that. And I just think that it's because you've already established that show, instead of announcing a new series with a different name. And I think that's sort of what it comes down to as well. Like, instead of announcing a new series with a different name that people are going to have to get used to because it's a new Rick and Michonne story, why not just have the ones who live season 2, where you can watch the ones who live, and after that ending with Rick and Michonne and you know, reuniting with their family, it just like going to season 2, and then all of a sudden you see them in Alexandria or wherever, and then the story picks up from there, right? I think that makes way more sense, because the story's still going to continue. You're not going to have any story from Dead City, you know, go to that story, or Daryl Dixon, you know, that story going or just sort of being connected in any way to the ones who live story. So just on that, you know, I feel like the ones who live could get a season 2. And I think renewing it for a season 2 would cause a lot more excitement. I'm really excited for Comic-Con. I really am. I can't wait to see what Gimple's going to say, because that's kind of what we're all waiting for right now. Like, I think a lot of us just want a better Rick Grimes story. Like, it's not like the story that we got was, you know, a horrible or anything like that. Like, I really did like The Ones Who Live. It's just that the ending was very unfortunate, and I just see a lot of people, like, whenever I talk about The Ones Who Live getting a season 2 or Andrew Lincoln and Denai Guerrero coming back in any way, people just say, no, I don't want that because of the finale, or Gimple can't be involved because he ruined it. Like, there's all of that there. It's just to have The Ones Who Live in a place like that is just, it's not the best. Like, it just in terms of being a fan of The Walking Dead, whenever you think of Rick and Michonne's story, you just think of the finale. And for me, I can kind of ignore a lot of it because I do like I like the major beats of the finale, if that makes any sense. I like the fact that Rick and Michonne reunited with their family. Like, that makes sense. For a season 2 to have them all together again, I would prefer to get a season 2 with all of them together and seeing that story than all of them apart, right? And then in terms of the CRM, they are still around. It's just the only thing about it is that Major General Beale was gone, which at this point, I am over. I am over that now. I'm not upset about that really anymore, because I just think that in terms of what they wanted to tell, this was the story that they wanted to tell. But I do think it was rushed. I still think there was a lot of issues with it, and they could have done it better. And I think that's the main issue here. But in terms of like the major beats of it, like Beale dying there, I'm okay with it at this point. I'm really over it. I just want there to be a new story, and I want to see where they go next year. So I do hope that they do renew The Ones Who Live season 2. Like, I literally I posted that on Twitter, or I guess X, however long ago, and there's a big response to it. People are you know, there's still interest there. People do want a season 2 because of the way season 1 ended, because there's also really amazing things about how it ended as well. You know, and there's a place that they can go with that story. It's just, yeah, I don't know what Denai Guerrero and Scott Gimple have been up to. I'm sure they're writing it. Like, I feel like it makes sense that we're going to get another season, like a 3rd or 4th or 5th season. I don't know about that. That seems like it's unlikely, but there's no way it's the end with how open they are to come back with everything that they're saying. To me, it seems likely that we are going to get a season 2. And yes, it's frustrating when you see people saying, okay, stop talking about this. We're not going to get season 2. It's a limited series. That's it. They're not coming back. The story's done. But those people are always going to say that. Like, that was always a thing with The Ones Who Live. Like, oh, Andrew Lincoln doesn't want to do it anymore. This is not, even when they were filming The Ones Who Live, it's like, oh, it's never going to release this and that. And it just kept happening forever. I remember actually when we were waiting for the trailer, like, they already finished filming The Ones Who Live. We saw a lot of that, and we were waiting for the trailer. We thought it was going to come out in like October, November, or whatever. It ended up coming out in January, but a lot of the talk before that was like, well, it's not coming out, it's never going to come out, this and that, and they're not doing it, whatever, like, you have to stop talking about it. And I mean, literally, it came out. So when I look at it like this and I just sort of ignore all of that, it makes a lot of sense that a season 2, it does seem like it's going to happen, but literally, to quote Andrew Lincoln, I don't know when. Well, actually, I think he says, but I don't know when. So yeah, I don't know when The Ones Who Live season 2 is going to be out, but you know, to expect an announcement at Comic-Con, I mean, we'll have to wait and see. If they're going to announce it at any point, it's going to be Comic-Con, right? So I'm really looking forward to that date specifically. 6 more days only. I really can't wait to see Gimple talk about The Ones Who Live season 2 in any way, and just, you know, any sort of update that we get there. So make sure to post all your thoughts down below. Hope you guys all enjoy the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.